Recording in progress.
Hello, students. We would be discussing the Vietnamese memoir, Last Night I Dreamed of Peace. In this lecture, we'll be discussing the various aspects of the memoir, and most essentially, we'll be taking a close look at the themes. First and foremostly, this memoir is distinct of capturing the wartime history. It gives us an intimate glimpse into the Vietnam War through the eyes of a very dedicated doctor, the writer, Dr. Dang Thu Tram. Her wartime diary not only provides a raw, poignant historical document, but it also sheds light on the personal and emotional experiences of those serving this war. I want you to pay close attention to the dates over here. The Vietnam War, which lasted from November 1st, 1955 to the fall of Saigon on April 30th, 1975. It was fueled by the ideological clash between the two groups, the communist northern part of Vietnam, which was supported by the communist allies and had Marxist inclinations, and the other one was the anti-communist southern part, which was backed primarily by the United States of America. Goes without saying that the backdrop of this memoir is of chaos and violence. Tram's documentations began in the late 1960s, and she was assigned to manage a field hospital in the Quang Nagai province. It is to be mentioned over here that from the four journals that she maintained, two are lost in the war, and two is collected and is given the shape of a memoir. Through her eyes, we gained a nuanced view of a war that ravaged a nation, but also witnessed actions of tremendous bravery and resilience. Her words offer invaluable insights into the lives of those who served and suffered during the Vietnam War, thereby ensuring that these stories, their stories specifically saying, the stories of the soldiers and their sacrifices are not forgotten at all. For many Vietnamese, the diary is actually a poignant reminder of the services, of the sacrifices, of the resilience of those who lived through one of the most tumultuous periods in not only the country's history, but also the larger history of Southeast Asia. Tram's honest and heartfelt reflections provide a deep personal perspective to the war, a counter narrative, probably we can say, and it often, gives us an impersonal. It's a counter narrative in the sense that it gives us. A very deep aspect of the subjective experiences of a war, unlike the impersonal accounts that are mentioned in the history books. For many Western readers, also, it serves as an eye opening account of the human side of the enemy during the Vietnam War. The next topic is ideals and beliefs, the drive to serve. Most importantly, the Vietnamese, especially the northern Vietnamese, were had an inclination of Marxist ideologies. Therefore, it's central to her, especially the author's, enduring resolve was a profound dedication to the communist cause and the pursuit of Vietnamese independence on these lines. Her unyielding belief in the principles of socialism and the vision of a united Vietnam were not merely abstractions, but she really worked very hard almost every day. We can see through her diary entries that she worked relentlessly in this towards this goal. Her writings convey a sense of purpose that transcended the immediate horrors of the war, focusing instead on the long term vision that she had. What was the vision? She had the vision of a very peaceful Vietnam, an independent Vietnam. Her motivation extended beyond mere ideology. It was fueled by an earnest compassion for those she treated and an intense desire to alleviate the suffering brought on by the war. Tram envisioned a future where the legacy of war would be one of triumph over adversity, where the sacrifices made by so many would pave the way for a harmonious and prosperous Vietnam primarily. Moving on to the next topic, daily lives in the war zone, the challenges and realities of the battlefield. Living amidst the chaos and destruction of the Vietnam War, Tram's daily life was a portrait of resilience and dedication. Her diary entries are explicit and shows us the living conditions and how it was marked by scarcity and uncertainty. Sheltering from air raids, foraging for food, contending with lack of medical supplies, her diary entries reveal grueling routines, in fact, and how the survival through these days characterized her days. The diary recounts her exhaustion from long hours of work, shows the human side of a doctor, the experiences that a doctor goes through in the battlefield, often performed under the threat of bombing and enemy patrols. The primitive medical conditions added to the strain as she and her colleagues had to improvise treatments and surgeries with whatever little resources they had. The war took a severe emotional toll not only on civilians and soldiers but also on those like Tram, who were tasked to be the care providers over there, the caregivers over there. The constant influx of wounded young soldiers, civilians pushed everyone to their emotional limits. The dichotomy of her roles as a healer and a witness to so much suffering is actually a recurring theme. Beyond the battlefield, the diary captures moments of brief respite and camaraderie among the comrades. Medical challenges in the combat zone were numerous and severe, as we already discussed. The lack of proper medical facilities and equipments meant that Tram was working under very harsh conditions. She had to perform surgeries and other critical procedures on under extremely challenging conditions, probably towards she didn't have those tools to perform surgeries, but she still was vowed to take care of the soldiers. Infection was a constant enemy, and the unsanitary conditions and the jungle's humid climate, because of the torrential rains, because of the tropical climate, it became all the more difficult for the wounded soldiers to heal. To work under these conditions is something which is absolutely remarkable. Her story is a powerful reminder of the costs of war and the enduring hope of a better and more peaceful world. This leads us to the last topic of discussion, that is the human cost of conflict. The memoir is absolutely representative of, is illustrative of these three aspects, which is empathy, sacrifice, and resilience. Through her diary entries, she brings forth the stories of her patients and colleagues, and then sketches a vivid tableau of empathy and sacrifice, that gives us a very harrowing image and what happens in a war-stricken zone. She often writes about their backgrounds, the backgrounds of the soldiers, their families, the personal sacrifices that they make, and paints a very different image of humans who are caught in a war zone. She picturizes moving accounts of young soldiers who went through immense physical suffering and pain and even faced their death. More than just fellow medical professionals, they are comrades in the truest sense of the word. The bombardments, lack of rest, and the omnipresent threat of death create a relentless pressure that would break many, driven by a sense of purpose and empathy. The successful treatment of wounded soldiers, heartfelt conversations with colleagues, often, and soldiers, or a moment of quiet contemplation would or a moment of quiet contemplation in the jungle could lift her spirits and renew her resolve. This was Tram's life in the war field before she met her untimely death in a bombardment in the year 1970 during an ambush by American forces. And she actually had to sacrifice her life for the service of her country and its ideals. Her passing was not just a loss to those who knew her personally, many scholars are of this view, but also to the many future lives she could have touched and transformed through her work. Now, that is Trump for you. I hope you really liked this memoir. Thank you and happy studying.